There are some days when you are like on the edge and you think you're going to explode. Okay, I'm getting stressed now.
This can lead to cognitive impairments.
That call could be your life, it could be somebody else's life, and it's all that unknown.
You just can't cope. You physically can't cope.
If there's one thing that unites us, a common experience that most Canadians can relate to, is that at one point or another, we've all felt stressed. Whether it's school exams, parenting, or work, stress is the word that's on our minds.
Yeah, it's exam season, so kind of stressed.
The pressure of getting good grades, all that kind of stuff.
Everybody's constantly in a rush, so it can be hard to keep up.
I'm actually in the process of looking for a new place, so I guess that's also adding to my stress.
Making money, getting a job, trying to become a citizen.
Wars and violence everywhere is also kind of difficult to deal with.
I feel like, some people can get really stressed and kind of closed down even.
But what is stress, and why is it sometimes so overwhelming? Is it inevitable, or can it be contained? Agatha Love is a mom of two, a wife, is returning to work, and we actually have a lot in common.
When you look back at the last few weeks, what would you say has been, the trigger for stress for you?
I think it's time. The timing of the day is faster now. I feel a lot more overstimulated because there's a lot more to juggle. Lunches in the evening, getting everyone's clothes ready, getting myself situated with my laptop. I'm back at work just 2 weeks. It's kind of new for me. I feel like once it's in place, then it'll get easier. But right now, it's just because the added load, it's time. I'm an older millennial. We're in that sandwich generation where we're also facing, taking care of our parents that might be having health issues. I had to prepare dinners and keep the house, clean and organize everything for my family.
What were your expectations for motherhood and what's the reality been?
My expectations were that I was going to have a little bit more sleep. I was
Sorry, not to laugh.
Yeah, I was not prepared for the sleep deprivation and the hormone shifts.
And then your second pregnancy during the pandemic.
Yes.
And you have another child to take care of.
Right.
What was that experience like for your family, for you and your husband?
It was a difficult pregnancy. And it was a difficult postpartum. I also experienced a lot of guilt. I was not in a state to breastfeed, so I couldn't. But I felt like I was missing out on a bonding experience, 100%. Doctors were just kind of like, well, okay, it is what it is. You'll just have to just deal with it because you have a newborn at home. Some things are just completely out of your control, right? And I feel like a lot of people live with the expectation that, let's just stuff this down and let's just get on with the day. But what if you just can't stuff it down anymore? You just can't cope. You physically can't cope. When I feel like my body doesn't feel like moving, I feel heavy, and I just want to go to bed and sleep, is when I know I'm super stressed. I put a lot of pressure on myself when I actually needed some care.
And then it becomes this vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle,
yeah.
Exactly.
To better understand burnout and the impact on our minds and bodies, I'm speaking with Alexandra Fiocco, a professor of psychology and an expert on chronic stress at Toronto Metropolitan University.
One model of chronic stress that I focus on are family caregivers. So family caregivers are constantly at work. If they might have to go to work, they're 9 to 5, and they get home and they still have to take care of perhaps their aging parents or perhaps their children.
Or both.
Or both, the sandwich generation as well. And if they don't have the right tools, perhaps they may be experiencing they can experience quite a bit of stress, feeling overwhelmed, and in some cases burnout. Burnout is usually used in the context of occupational or job stress, but burnout is just itself, it is definitely a stress-related health ailment that we need to address. If we're constantly activating our stress-sensitive systems, we may increase the level of glucose circulating in the body. This can lead to metabolic disorders such as type 2 diabetes. And we have an excess amount of cortisol that's accessing and binding to parts of the brain. This can lead to cognitive impairments.
Professor Fioco's research assistants, Max and Mila, are going to show me exactly what happens when my stress levels increase.
So we are at the Institute for Stress and Wellbeing Research at Toronto Metropolitan University, and this is my lab mate, Max.
Hi, Max. It's really nice to meet you. So today, you both are gonna help me with some tests. What happens next?
So we're gonna move you to the next room, and we're gonna go ahead with a cognitive performance task, okay?
Okay, cool. It feels weird walking with all this.
I know, there's a lot.
I hope I don't pull anything.
Does everything feel okay?
Yeah, it feels
Amazing.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm nervous.
Okay. So for this test, I would like you to listen carefully to a series of single-digit numbers that will be presented out loud every 3 seconds.
Okay.
As the numbers are read aloud, your job is to add the most recent number that's read to you to the second most recent number.
What?
Importantly, you must say your answers out loud, and you must not say your calculations out loud. I'm also going to be taking notes of your overall performance, and though I will be here for the duration of the task, I can't answer any questions and I can't stop the task once it begins.
Okay, I'm getting stressed now.
So I'm going to start the task now.
Rate 1. 1.
2.
4.
Wait, did it already start? 5. 13.
1.
9.
5.
6.
1.
She's doing quite well. Like some people, if they're a bit better at math, it doesn't stress them out as much because they know what they're doing. But sometimes here, for the sweat response, it's the most dynamic change that we can measure like in real time. And for some people, it really jumps as soon as they're asked to do the math task.
1.
4.
5.
6.
7.
12.
4.
11.
8.
12.
You can also see when she smiles, it comes up here. See, smiling.
Okay, that's
All
very
right, so you have completed the cognitive performance task. So Max can let you know about your results.
So do you see people passing out?
No, never. I don't think it's that stressful. I hope not.
I think I'm pretty much almost past it. Okay, let's go see the damage.
I mean, in terms of how you did out here, the most dynamic line that we can kind of measure in real time is arguably EDA, which is your sweat response.
Okay.
You hovered around 6.5, which is kind of what you've been at since we hooked you up. But interestingly, you increased the most just at the very end of both sets. So I think there was maybe a little bit of like pent up stress at the end.
I mean, I was like, there's cameras. I can't fail in front of the camera.
Yeah, that's like extra stress too.
Right?
Yeah.
We have to understand what is stress, and then by understanding stress and how stress influences the body and the mind, once you have that knowledge, then we talk about stress management tools. Once you have that knowledge, wonderful. Well, now let's apply it. Because even though people say knowledge is key, I don't believe that. Application is key. Because you can be very well read, but if you don't apply the knowledge, well, then it's knowledge lost. So it all starts in the brain, really. You know, if we see a stressor in our environment, so for example, a big grizzly bear is in front of you. This is an absolute stressor. We're all going to react to this grizzly bear pretty much the same way. We're going to mount a stress response, which we usually call the fight or flight response. We have an increase in heart rate, we have an increase in blood pressure, we have an increase in our respiration. There's some stress hormones that start circulating in the body to help us address this threat. right? The reason why we're here today is because our ancestors had a great stress response and they were able to survive. So stress in itself is not bad. It's really the chronicity of stress that can have a negative impact on the body and on the brain.
Many jobs can cause stress, but for some, it can be a matter of life and death.
Do we see certain professions being more stressful than others?
Yes, definitely. So first responders, this would be definitely, you know, one of these professions where they're kind of high on the stress scale. They are running into danger, and there's research showing that they are reactive. You know, as soon as they get the call, you can see changes in terms of the fight or flight response. You see that sympathetic activation.
It's a simulation of a propane tank on fire. They're practicing techniques of cooling it, to control it, and then they'll attack the fire and to try to get in to shut the valve off. We have a commander up front who's directing the crews forward. So you'll see them all getting prepared and they're going to start moving in.
You gotta go back to your training. Remember that you're working as a crew, do your job. When you're up close to something like that, the thing we're worried about is that it potentially could explode just because the liquids in there is heating up and expanding quickly. So the danger level is very high. The stress levels in your body are going through the roof.
The whole thing with the stress aspect, when you're coming into work, the unknown. So when you get that call could be your life, it could be somebody else's life, and it's all that unknown.
It's not a normal reaction to walk with a fire hose towards a propane fire. It's not a normal reaction to go crawling through a building where you can't see your hand in front of your face. It can be tough. It can be tough.
There's lots going on. I think something's happening in the back.
They've actually got a fire call they have to go to. So.
And they're off to their fire call.
And they're off.
I don't think the public understands the severity of what you see.
I still remember, it was like yesterday, and it was about 1984, and it was in October. Mom left her baby in the bathtub. We ran the medical call, and tragically the baby drowned. And my son was about 8 weeks old, and I couldn't wait to get out of that fire hall to go home and hug my son. And then I've had other calls that, you know, they come back and they get placed in the brain, and they get filed there, but every once in a while they decide they want to pop up. You know, back when we started, you couldn't talk about some of the calls. If you weren't sleeping well, if you were agitated at home, the way that we used to deal with that, we would have the Thursday night, everybody would go out and you'd sit around and you'd drink. We were losing firefighters. We were seeing firefighters retiring early that had addiction issues and weren't able to get any help.
For me, when I was in my struggles, one of the things that we used to do is just go drink it away. But how'd that work for you? You know, it didn't go away.
It just created another problem.
It just put it back deeper into my mind, right? My alcohol and drug addiction manifested not being able to live in my head, and this is my coping mechanism. And with that coping mechanism comes to everything that happens with that. You know, jails, institutions, and eventually would be death. And I was close to death a few times.
What would you say was the turning point for you then to get better?
So I went over to the East Toronto Detox over in Danforth, and I talked to Will, who runs this program. I would talk to him every 4 months if I need to or not, because I'd have to satisfy the course about what am I doing to get better. And that's where the journey of recovery really manifested into a day-by-day program.
Hugh and Kevin are part of a program called the Road to Mental Readiness, created specifically for high-stress occupations such as military, law enforcement, and fire crews.
So tell me, what is the Road to Mental Readiness program?
So the Road to Mental Readiness, we brought that in so the firefighters can know and understand what's expected of them for their mental states. So we have the big four, so our goal setting, our visualization, tactical breathing, tunnel vision, and muscle relaxation. The Road to Mental Readiness will let them, give them the tools in the toolbox to know and understand how they're responding and some of the things they need to decompress themselves before they even get to that call of what they should be doing. Be careful coming up.
Thanks. This is the first time I'm in a fire.
So this is what we'll do. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to sit down, we're going to get comfortable, because now we're responding to a call. And at this point now, this is where you start doing your tactical breathing. Okay. So now you got your SCBA on.
What's an SBA?
Self-contained breathing apparatus. Okay. So we'd have this on, wrapped up. And at which point now, we just want to do some breathing techniques to slow down our stress levels. Okay. So you breathe in 1, 2, for 4 seconds. 2, 3, 4. Exhale, get rid of all that bad air. Again, take a deep breath in for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 4 seconds. That's our breathing techniques. Another one we can do is stress level. Clinch up tight. Hold it for 4 seconds. Let it go. And shake it off for 4 seconds. And those 2 little techniques will bring our stress level down that much.
We never really learned growing up how important our breath is, and our breath actually helps us regulate our stress-sensitive systems. So if I am intentionally breathing in and out through my nostrils, breathing in through my nostrils, and on the exhale, elongating that exhalation, I'm actually turning on what we call the parasympathetic branch of our autonomic nervous system, which is associated with the rest and digest response. Stress management training is really important in these high-risk, high-stress jobs, such as first responders, firefighters, police people, because they are putting themselves in a context where they are under threat.
I see a lot of our retired members, and they'll come and they'll say, I was at this fire. There was a tragic fire, the McCann family, and the firefighters were there, and they come back and they say they want their lives back. I don't want to retire and not be having to be able to laugh and enjoy life and to enjoy that with family. Yeah, and the best thing about the R2MR program is it's all the scientific data is there. I believe for Toronto Fire Service that lives have been saved, and that a lot of people have reached out as a result of the delivery of the program to our people.
What led you to start Toronto Hiking Moms?
I wanted to walk and hike. I also wanted to build a community for myself and for other moms who also want to walk and hike. I did not think that I was able to do it, but for me, I was going for walks anyways. And when I started my first walk, early February, March, I was pleasantly surprised when everybody asked when's the next walk. I needed to get exercise. And I wanted to not be a victim of my circumstances. And then literally my community stepped in through the Hiking Moms, right?
You put yourself out there,
right?
You're hoping to connect with other parents. How do you think isolation can
add to stress?
You ruminate. You think that your problems are bigger than they are, right? We all have problems. For me, it's a lot more work being isolated, anxious, and depressed.
And ruminating.
Yeah. Just as kids want to play, moms want to play as well. I feel all adults want to play too.
Yeah.
And I feel like nature is the best place to play.
Jayan is at Durham Forest today, meeting up with Daniela Puric-Mladenovic, an assistant professor at the University of Toronto and an advocate for the practice known as forest bathing.
Life, you know.
You
It's
have kids,
stressful.
you have
Kids, what we're
bills.
gonna cook, what we're gonna eat, like everyone else. It builds up. And what's the outlet? That's the question.
Well, let's talk about this outlet, forest bathing. Maybe some people may not be familiar with that term. Give us a little explanation. Where did that term come from and what is it exactly?
So forest bathing is the term that came from Japan. Their forestry department and their health department came together because they realized that people in urban areas, Tokyo, they are very stressful because of the way how the city is built. They live fast. There is not much access to green space, and they started exploring how forest and going outside impacts human health. And they've done excellent work, their medical community, and that slowly came into, I believe, in North American and Canadian literature, and everyone was saying forest bathing, forest bathing. And I'll be honest, like the first time when I heard that, it was like, yeah, like, you know, it's a very, you know, you think, who knows what that is. And then you realize it's hiking. It's being outside. It's just that they in Japan, they were clever and they produced the evidence. You get benefits of ions that plants release, which makes you feel good. With coniferous forests, you get extra benefits because there are more ions in a coniferous forest. Some of the plants have more health-related properties. If you walk through a pine forest early in the morning, you get more benefits. And it's not like a voodoo science or anything. People done research because there are more ions released in the air, and that makes people feel good. White pine, it's soft, like easy way to recognize
it. Is actually, yeah.
It's not like
at all, no.
Red pine will have 2 thick needles.
All right, so let me see that. You said there's 5.
So 5.
All right, yeah.
And the red pine, see, 2.
Oh,
so,
okay. 5 for white.
Yeah.
2 for red.
2 for red. Yes.
Done. Got it. I'm curious, why do you think it's important that people forest bathe or get out and be in nature when it is sort of something that has to do with stress?
Studies and studies have shown that if you have people that are active, number one, that has a positive impact on health. In particular for younger generation, it's so critical to take them outside and take them away from technology. The other thing is, do our kids know now to climb trees? You know, we bubble wrap them. Don't touch that, don't touch that. They're afraid of nature, and that shouldn't be like that.
This berry, what is it called?
Partridge berry.
Partridge berry. All right.
Yeah.
Shall we try?
Yeah.
Here we go. Subtle taste.
Subtle taste, some seeds.
Some seeds, more seeds than I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was trapped in a forest, I can eat that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are some days when you are like on the edge and you think you're going to explode. And then you go walk around and pay attention. Maybe because of my profession, I pay attention to like little things that I see. It takes your mind into completely different direction. And then when you get back to your car, you think maybe that was just stupid because maybe I was mad at something or, you know, stressed about something. But from personal experiences, it calms you down 100%.
Regardless of what profession we're in, just taking some time for you, it might mean sitting down with your spouse, your significant other, having a nice glass of wine by yourself on the porch. The weather's getting a little nicer, that might be your ha-ha moment. Might mean going for a walk and just watching the waves crash on the rocks for 5 or 10. And it might just mean shutting your phone off for 5 minutes.
Really being aware of what we're doing that might be helpful for our well-being and what we're doing that might be harmful for our well-being. So I think it really starts there. So physical activity, exercise, keeping ourselves curious, right? Engaging in, learning new information as much as possible. We want to incorporate them into our everyday life, into sort of our identity of being a human being.
Experts, moms, and even firefighters have simple strategies that you can do to keep your stress in check. For me, I find tactical breathing helps. Breathing and counting to 10 just makes me more relaxed. Let us know how you manage your stress and join the conversation here and online, and we'll see you next time.